Today we're tackling one of the most polarizing topics of our time, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and specifically the war that erupted on October 7, 2023. This conflict isn't just a regional struggle, it's also a flashpoint for global debate, which is often drowned in emotion, misinformation and charged rhetoric. You've likely heard slogans like "from the river to the sea" chanted at protests, or accusations of genocide and apartheid leveled against Israel. These terms carry immense weight, but they're often thrown around with little clarity or understanding of their implications. So in this video we're going to unpack these claims, examine their historical and factual basis, and explore what's really going on. My goal isn't to tell you what to think, but to equip you with the tools to think critically about this issue. So let's dive in. To understand the current war and the rhetoric surrounding it, we need to start with the context. The Israel-Hamas conflict of 2023 didn't emerge in a vacuum. It's part of a broader Israeli-Palestinian struggle that dates back over a century and is rooted in competing claims to the same land. In 1948, Israel was established as a Jewish state following the UN's partition plan, which proposed two states, one Jewish and one Arab. The Arab leadership rejected this plan, leading to Israel's War of Independence, which Palestinians call the Nakba, or catastrophe, due to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Fast forward through decades of wars, peace talks and failed agreements, and we arrive at the rise of Hamas, which is a Palestinian militant group founded in 1987 during the First Intifada. Hamas's charter explicitly calls for the destruction of Israel and the establishment of Islamic State in its place. This sets the stage for their role in Gaza, where they govern since 2007, after winning elections and ousting the Palestinian Authority in a violent takeover. On October 7, 2023, Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, killing over 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and taking more than 250 hostages. The attack involved horrific acts of violence, massacres at kibbutz, a music festival turned slaughterhouse, and widespread destruction. Israel responded with a military campaign in Gaza, which was aimed at dismantling Hamas's infrastructure, which has led to thousands of Palestinian deaths, widespread displacement, and a humanitarian crisis. The numbers are staggering. Reports estimate around 50,000 Palestinian casualties, though this figure is often sourced from Hamas-controlled health ministry, which makes their accuracy debatable. Remember, it's the same terrorist organization that committed unspeakable atrocities like mass murder, rape, torture, and kidnapping on an extreme scale. Now, this war has reignited a fierce global debate, with protests erupting worldwide. And alongside the tragedy, we've seen a surge in inflammatory rhetoric, particularly accusations that Israel is committing genocide and enforcing apartheid. These terms aren't just words, they're legal and moral claims with very specific meanings. So let's break them down. First, the term genocide, that was coined by Raphael Lemkin in 1944 and is defined by the 1948 UN Genocide Convention as acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial or religious group. This includes killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm, or creating conditions aimed at physical destruction. Critics of Israel argue that its actions in Gaza, like mass civilian casualties, destruction of infrastructure, and restrictions on aid, meet this threshold. They point to the scale of destruction and statements from some Israeli officials expressing extreme views as evidence of intent. But intent is the core element here. Genocide requires a deliberate aim to eradicate a group, and not just high casualties from military action. Israel's stated goal is to target Hamas, a group it considers a terrorist organization and which is responsible for October 7 attack. Its operations, while devastating, focus on military targets like tunnels and rocket sites, though often with significant collateral damage due to Gaza's dense urban environment. Defenders of Israel argue that Hamas's tactic of embedding military infrastructure in civilian areas, like hospitals, schools, mosques, complicates efforts to avoid civilian harm. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for both Israeli and Hamas leaders, citing war crimes. but no genocide ruling has been made as of 2025. This isn't to downplay the suffering in Gaza, of course. The humanitarian toll is undeniable. Homes are reduced to rubble, families are shattered, and access to food and water is severely limited. But labeling it genocide requires proving intent to destroy Palestinians as people, not just defeat Hamas. The debate hinges on whether Israel's actions are proportionate or indiscriminate, as well as the role of Hamas, which spent billions of dollars of international aid on enriching its leaders, procuring weapons, and building tunnels to protect its weapons, instead of investing in prosperity and security of its citizens. And this will be a question that courts and historians and general public will wrestle with for years. Now, let's tackle the apartheid part. This term comes from South Africa's system of racial segregation, where a white minority enforced systemic discrimination against black citizens. Critics apply it to Israel, pointing to its control over the West Bank, where Palestinians live under military occupation, face restricted movement, and lack equal rights compared to Israeli settlers. They also cite Gaza's blockade, which is in place since 2007, and which limits goods and travel, and they argue that it creates an open-air prison. In turn, Israel and its supporters counter that the situation isn't about race, but it is about security. The West Bank's occupation stems from the 1967's Six-Day War, where Israel captured territory, which, as it argues, is needed as a buffer against hostile neighbors. The blockade on Gaza, enforced with Egypt, aims to prevent Hamas from arming itself further. Israel also points out that its Arab citizens, which is about 20% of its population, have equal legal rights in Israel, which would be unthinkable in South Africa during the apartheid. So Israel supporters quite logically argue that comparing this to apartheid in South Africa ignores the context of ongoing conflict with no clear resolution. The apartheid label also ignores the complexity of Palestinian governance. The Palestinian Authority controls parts of the West Bank, but its corruption and inadequacy has fueled distrust. Hamas's rule in Gaza prioritizes militancy over civilian welfare, diverting resources to rockets and tunnels. Both sides face internal challenges that complicate the propagandist narrative of Israel as the sole oppressor. And then there is this famous slogan, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." You hear it at protests, see it on signs, and it's become a lightning rod. For many Palestinians and their supporters, it's a call for liberation. A unified Palestine from Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, encompassing Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank. But that's where it gets messy. For many, it implies a single Palestinian state effectively erasing Israel. Hamas's charter aligns with this view, rejecting Israel's existence outright. Many Jews hear the slogan as a call for their displacement, or much worse, annihilation, especially given the history of violence against the Jews and the Hamas ideology. Here's the direct quote from Hamas charter. "The day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight the Jews. When the Jew will hide behind stones and trees, the stones and trees will say, 'O Muslims,' or 'Abdullah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him.' Only the Gakar tree would not do that, because it is one of the trees of the Jews." With that charter in mind, Israel supporters point out that people who chant the slogan, "From the river to the sea," support the genocide against Jews. Some activists insist that the slogan is about equal rights, not destruction, a vision of one state where Jews and Palestinians coexist. The problem is that it does not align with the Hamas's views. Also, the slogan's vagueness allows it to mean different things to different people. Without clarity, it fuels mistrust rather than dialogue. So it shouldn't be used thoughtlessly. And this brings us to the rise in anti-Semitism since October 7. Synagogues have been vandalized, Jewish students have been harassed, and online hate has just spiked. Criticism of Israel's policies is one thing, and it's valid to question any government's actions. But when rhetoric slips into denying Israel's right to exist, or targeting Jews as a group, it crosses a very important line. The definition of anti-Semitism from the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, adopted by many countries, includes denying Jewish self-determination as a form of antisemitism. Of course, not everyone agrees with this definition, and they argue that it stifles legitimate criticism, but it is still a very important fact to point out. So, where does this leave us? The Israel-Hamas conflict is a tragedy of competing narratives. Palestinians seek freedom from occupation and blockade, while Israelis seek security from attacks on the October 7th. Both have legitimate grievances, but the path to peace is buried under the decades of mistrust, failed negotiations, and now very inflammatory rhetoric. Accusations of genocide and apartheid, while emotionally charged, often oversimplify a reality that defies easy labels. And slogans like "from the river to the sea" can inspire hope in some or inflame genocidal intent in others, depending on who is listening. The truth lies in grappling with the hard facts, the history, the casualties, the legal definitions, and the human cost. My hope is that this video sparks a conversation and desire to form educated opinions, and not just shouting matches. Clearly, there is enough of those going on already. And please share your thoughts below, but let's keep it respectful and grounded. And if you found this video to be interesting or thought-provoking, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. Thank you so much for watching, stay curious, stay critical, and I'll see you in the next one.